They say you only get to make one impression, and that's your first impression. Whatever it is you decide to let people think of you, or whatever it is they're going to take from your first interaction anyway, you only get one shot at it. Now, there's a lot of fantastic character introductions throughout fiction, and one of my favorites is from a character called Viren from the Netflix animated series The Dragon Prince. Viren's introduction is much understated. It's actually kind of boring, but that's okay because I actually really like it, and I like boring and subtlety. Now, it's subtle in ways that you might not recognize the first time, and even after multiple rewatches, you might not fully appreciate how well put together his character introduction is. So let's walk through this character introduction, his first scene, and his interaction with King Harrow to gain a new appreciation for the excellent writing in the first book of The Dragon Prince. To set the stage, a group of Moonshadow Elf assassins sent to kill the king were spotted by a patrol in the woods outside of the castle. When the moment came for one of them to take out the remaining guard, she couldn't do it. This is Rayla, one of the three main characters of the show. Nobody too important. Marco flees back to the castle to report what he has found. We then cut to an exterior shot of the castle in the morning, indicating the passage of some time. We see a man staring into a mirror, tracing over mysterious symbols, when a knock is heard at the door. It's Marcos, shouting for Lord Viren. Now, despite the urgency, Viren stops to think, before grabbing a cloth and covering the mirror. When he opens the door, Marcos reports what he saw. We then cut to another exterior shot of the castle, once again indicating that some time has passed. When we cut back in, we see two guards. One of them warns that King Harrow hasn't risen yet. But Viren ignores the guard's warning, breaks the rules, and goes in to wake the king. However, he does not speak to him directly. Instead, he opens the blinds to let the light in, at which point the king awakes and jokingly tells him that he warned him that if he woke him up this early again, he would have him executed. We see Viren change from the serious and stern man we've seen so far to a softer, gentler version as he looks away and responds that he'll give him a moment. So backing up, the first shot we see of Viren shows him standing in front of a mirror with a staff in the foreground. Now, eagle-eyed viewers might recognize this staff, as we had seen it in the first minutes of the show, though it did look slightly different. This piece right here, however, with the purple gemstone in the center, is the same. So, even if one wasn't to assume that this is the same staff, they may be able to assume that the staffs are at least connected, indicating that this character is a dark mage. And, since the introduction of the show painted dark mages very negatively, one might assume the moral alignment of Viren from this one frame. The mirror, which we haven't seen before, is a curious artifact. The way Viren traces his finger over the runes indicates he too does not fully understand it. This mirror will shape the events of his life going forward. Having it here in the first shot we see of him is excellent setup and foreshadowing for events later on. The mirror's importance isn't properly shown until the second season, so having it here is excellent planning on the creators of the show's part. This mirror is a tool to peek into the prison where the treacherous star-touched elf Erebos has been imprisoned, a tool to ensure that he never leaves. Now, the history of how Viren came into possession of this mirror is explained in Season 3. So having this very important artifact here in the very first shot of him is just excellent and fantastic foreshadowing for events later on. Marco shouts, "High Mage Viren," affirming his status in connection to magic. Later, Marcos refers to him as Lord Viren, emphasizing his stature and importance. The fact that Marcos comes to him first with urgent news speaks to Viren's capabilities, as well as his position of authority in the castle. Before Viren opens the door, he pauses to cover the mirror, and that gives us insight into his nature. He's a calculating man, always thinking ahead, and this forethought and planning are integral to his story. He's also secretive, and these secrets continue as the story progresses. Hiding the mirror, something a lowly guard would most likely not find suspicious at all, shows his caution. When Viren approaches the king's bedroom, the guards warn him that the king has not awoken yet, but he ignores them and moves past. This interaction shows his high position and rank, as the guards don't even attempt to stop him. It also shows his propensity to break the rules, which is another key aspect of his character. Throughout the series, we will see him disregarding rules, whether it's summoning the pentarchy or grieving 7 days for a dead king. In one of his first actions we see of him, we see this aspect of his character as he brushes off the guards and their rules. Entering the king's bedroom, Viren handles the situation indirectly. Instead of waking the king directly, he instead opens the curtains to let some sunshine in. This shows another aspect of his character, achieving his goals through indirect means, while one person might try a more direct method. For example, perhaps tapping lightly on the king's shoulder or even calling to him in a soft voice. He instead chooses a more indirect and subtle route, reflecting his nature and approach to achieving his objectives. When King Harrow jokingly warns him about waking him up so early, we see a softer side of Viren. This interaction shows their friendship, a core part of what leads Viren down his path. He's willing to sacrifice himself to save Harrow, but when his friend acts as a king, he takes it as an insult, leading him down an even darker path. His willingness to sacrifice himself for Harrow will be a catalyst for much of his villainous actions throughout the series. The introduction to Viren is fascinating and just so well written. We learn so much about the mysterious nature, his status as a high mage, his propensity to break the rules, and his friendship with King Harrow in barely a minute of screen time. It's just absolutely fantastic writing, and hopefully you can now appreciate this as much as I do. Thanks for watching.